Hey team, it's Daine McDonald here, your host of the Industry Leaders Podcast, where we interview the best and the brightest in the world in the fields of nutrition, training, entrepreneurship, and mindset. And in today's episode, it's a very special episode actually. It's a roundtable. So we've got my wife, and then we've got two of our master coaches from Clean Health, Cade Robertson and Tabby. They're two of the best and the brightest in the field of fitness today, and they're also together as partners. And in today's episode, we talk about the struggles, the highs, the lows of being in business together as partners, both in business and in life. And Lauren and myself have got a lot of experience in that. So we sat down with Cade and Tabby to kind of run through things. We talk about family, life, fitness, mindset, our background, and more. So if you like this episode, click the link below, subscribe, and enjoy the show.
Well, I was telling you last night, I got some ideas for some content that we can shoot.
You're an idiot.
Everyone knows where my mind just went.
You're an idiot.
All right, guys, so we're here for another episode. No, we're not. It's
You're
actually not
fucking
an
loud.
episode of the... I know, I am fucking loud. That's why you love me. All right. Anyway, it's not even a podcast episode. It's basically, I think, well, what are we doing here today, guys?
Kind of a podcast episode.
Yeah, it's similar to a podcast, but more of like an impromptu chat, I would say. Like
Yeah.
an open round table.
Yeah, I think what prompted it is like we were sitting upstairs on Tuesday, all of us, and kind of looking at the similarities, I guess, between what you guys are doing now as a couple in the fitness industry. You know, it's obviously you guys have really only partnered up together recently. And it's something that Lauren and I, you know, we've been partners for a decade now, or coming up on a decade, but then have worked together for eight years.
Oh, we're so lucky.
I know. So obviously we've been through the trials and tribulations and can kind of understand. And I think, you know, you were asking some questions about like, how did we find this and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what, let's just shoot an episode on it. So here we are.
Yeah, I think a lot of people benefit from getting your guys' experience and knowledge in the industry, you know, like you just said, a decade down the line compared to us right at the forefront and beginning of that partnership.
Yeah.
And like the trials and tribulations that come with trying to run and manage a business and company, but also trying to manage a relationship that doesn't fall apart at the same time. Like it's definitely...
It's hard because I think like, you know, I was thinking today for us, like one of the reasons, there's a few reasons why we, you know, decided to go all in together in business. Like, because the reality is the first part of our relationship, for the first 18 months, we didn't work together. You know, it was just me, and we had a very traditional kind of like relationship where I would leave early in the morning, come back at night, Lauren would take care of the home, the meal, and all that type of stuff. And that's what I grew up and was exposed to. And that's actually what my first marriage was like. It was very more traditional and all that type of stuff. But, you know, and it was very similar for Lauren in her first marriage too. But then I think it got to a point where, you know, I had gone through some trouble in the business. I'd made some mistakes and poor judgment calls, you know, was losing a lot of money. I needed someone that I could trust to kind of step in and work with me. And even though at the time she didn't have the experience, I knew she had the skill, and obviously the trust factor was there to be able to do it. And then obviously over time, that's kind of just evolved into what it is. But I think like initially we didn't plan it. Right?
Yeah, but most people don't. Look at most people these days say, keep your relationship and your work separate. Keep everything separate. You shouldn't work together.
Yeah.
You shouldn't blur those lines. A lot of people like hearing about Daine's experience before in his previous marriage. They didn't even talk about what happened at work.
Yeah.
So someone didn't even get to vent about what happened through the day. That's like, you're at work for over 50% of your day, and you can't even kind of just...
And I want to touch base on that because that's a point that you made me remember. Like that was one thing in my, because I've actually, for me, I've had 3 partners that I've worked at Clean Health with. Right. So my my girlfriend at the time, we actually started Clean Health together back in 2008. Her name's Shannon. And so, but you know, that was only literally for about 3 months. Yeah. And then we broke up and kind of, you know, went on. So, you know, I went into this third relationship just thinking much of the same. But the difference with this one is, to Lauren's point, like in my previous one, I couldn't go home and vent any of the trials and tribulations because there was obviously, I didn't want to stress her out because I knew that she didn't have the resilience to deal with kind of the stuff that I was going through on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. I fortunately had that with Lauren from day one. So for me, you know, it was a very easy transition to bring into the business. But one of the reasons ultimately, like why we, started working together at that point, and I was even thinking about today, why we're still doing it so much, is like to replace us in the business right now would cost over $2 million.
We've tried it multiple times.
It
just doesn't work.
Literally, so we cover the jobs of about 10 people.
Yeah.
Right? So like I look at, we're across product, sales, IP, like every single part of the business we're across, and that's enabled us to grow. Now, don't get me wrong, like it's not sustainable forever. And we've gone through periods over the last 8 years where we've ebbed and flowed out of that. But I think like, where you guys are at starting out, it makes 100% sense to
And we have
to 100% to go all in together. Like, how have you guys found it? Like, because when did you guys get together?
Beginning of the year, like 6 or 7 months ago. Like that's how quick it's all happened. But to that point, I guess before touching on the business side, touching on the relationship side, like a lot of people would see that 6 months. I was speaking about this yesterday with Lane. Would see 6 months as like such a short period of time to like get into, such a serious relationship. But what people don't realize is most relationships, it's cool, call it their day to day. One's heading off to work, the other one's heading off to work. They're going to train like 60, 70% of the day they're not spending together. They're spending 30% of their day together. For us, we spend 100% of the day together. Like we're working together, we're training together, we're going out together, we got content shoots together, we're doing stuff like this together, like 100% of our day. So our 6 months is like most people's 3 years in time equivalents spent together, like even with the traveling and all that.
We used to say that with experiences. We're like, we've been through more in the year that we were together than in like a previous 10-year relationship.
Exactly.
Like,
I guess we're kind of going off on a tangent now, but I'll be very quick on it. Like what triggered me to actually start doing this was two things. One, it was seeing the growth that Brian, Mark and Cole De Silva had in their business through just using organic social media to attract it. But then it was, and obviously the way they do it, it's more about, generating engagement and all that type of stuff. But then I actually watched a video from Alex Hormozy where he spoke about how the amount of website traffic, CPL, CPA, all of the, I guess, analytical CEO type figures and costs attached to it that he'd found over 6 months, and how basically 20x his reach brought his, cost per lead down or cost per acquisition down substantially. And I'm just like, well, fuck, commercially it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? But obviously to do it, not everyone is comfortable getting in front of a camera and doing that. Like for me, that's no issue. Like I've always been comfortable doing it, but the business hasn't needed me to do that.
Until now.
You know what I mean? Like when I started Clean Health, it did. Yeah. But the last several years, I've been very fortunate. I've been able to have other experts within our team that have got big brands and profiles that can do it, and I could just focus on the back end on the growth. Yeah. Which we're still doing now together. But even with Lauren, and kind of dragging her in.
Yours. I didn't say this. I actually never said, "Yep, I'm going to start doing anything on social media."
On the elliptical this morning, I was like, "This is good."
Yeah. See, there you go, Tick. You just got it.
It's kidding. I know how it would have been. Dave would have just been like, "Lauren, you're filming this video."
Get in front of the camera. Now answer this question. And I'm like, most people, even our partners, like script everything, and I'm like just left there going, "What am I doing?"
But that's, I think, when you touching base before about working with your partner, I've always been her biggest fan. I've always had complete faith and utter belief in her ability to do anything, even if she hasn't done it. Because I'm like that too. Like attracts like. I don't need to have done something before. I can pretty much do anything I want. Yeah. I have that mindset. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. I can be good at it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you. I literally said that to Tabby the other day. I was like, I don't care what the challenge is. Like, I'll do it. Like, tell me what we need to do, and we'll make sure we get it done. And I have no doubt that we'll win at whatever we try to do. I was like,
see, I find it good. Like doing it, I was like, this was what I wanted, or it wasn't part of my vision. And then doing it, I was like, this is hard. And I was like, you know what? Every day I find things pretty, without sounding egotistical, pretty easy. Yeah. And I'm like, you don't grow from being an easy. You grow from something that's challenging you. So I was like, hey, why not? Like, let's just give it a go, because that's going to actually make you grow to be a bigger person and better.
Yeah, 100%.
So what were you touching base on before?
Yeah, just like we were spending 6 months together, but we're together every second of every day. So that obviously vastly accelerated our relationship, especially traveling the world for 3 months. Like, flights, all those
If you
stresses.
didn't know each other while you were traveling for that
That's what we said.
You'll be all right.
We literally, as we landed in LA, we're already experiencing issues. I'm like, oh, we're going to get through this. But to get through that, like, I kind of knew straight away, like, we'll be able to manage anything as a couple. But we, in the beginning, first 2-3 months, we obviously weren't working together and didn't have a business together. But every single day,
what we were doing was the same anyway.
Yeah, we were doing the same stuff and helping each other with the same stuff because we both have fitness businesses, and we were like, she was helping me with my clients and my business, I was helping her with her clients and her business, we were helping each other with content, with our contracts. Like, we were doing the same thing separately, helping each other, and it just made so much sense to combine that, do it together, and help accelerate our growth and just put our brains together and go forwards. And we did that, and it's been great since that point. So I guess similar to what you were touching on, like, I don't trust many people that I know will be able to handle what I need them to handle, like I do Tabby to handle that.
Yeah. It's like they say, anything, like, they talk about when you bring businesses bigger and you bring in investors and it's always going to grow quicker. It's like with your partner, with anything, like two people are always going to be able, if you've got the same vision and goals and mindset, you're going to be able to accelerate and grow much bigger than if it was just one person.
Massively, yeah. And I don't know exactly what the saying is, but it's always like 2 brains equals 3. So it's like there's me and my thoughts and my effort, then there's Tabby, her thoughts, her effort, but then there's what we've got together. So it's almost like you're getting 3 kind of times the productivity instead of just the one-on-one.
And do you guys ever find, if you do have like different points of view, or do you ever have alignments that do you ever have times where you're not aligned with each other?
Oh, definitely, we do.
100%, yeah.
And we're both very, very similar. We're both pretty, stubborn and pig-headed in certain things. I give, I'm typical, I've got more empathy and with the kids, but like we both do, and we both get quite passionate about things as well. But it all just unravels because we push each other. It's about respecting each other's opinions and realizing, and I always say to him, we don't have to agree on everything. It's about, that's how you brainstorm, that's how you grow, that's how you realize maybe things do need to change. Daine's amazing now, like, after having worked together for so long, of being able to actually take on board my opinion, and he does respect and trust it. That's the problem. A lot of people with that personality, you won't listen to anyone else. You have to respect the person that you're working with to be able to listen to them. He could say, this is what I want to do. We got in a meeting yesterday, I was like, I don't agree with this, 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 and this. And then we sit down and break it down. It actually, we can always come to what's going to be the best for the business, because he has founder brain. So he'll sit down and blurt out 50 million amazing fucking ideas. Everyone starts throwing shit everywhere and going, yep, let's get this done. And I'm like, we're wasting time, because when you sit back, it doesn't just work the way it does. It's like
the ideas don't just happen.
They don't just happen like that. So it's like, hold on, okay. He's at the moment, he's in this totally creative mode, like just throwing things everywhere. And I'm like, okay, like it's also for the team to manage them.
Let's go buy a business. Let's go start that.
Literally, here, this group, you're going to run 3 lives away. I said yesterday, can we stop? Can we bring it back to basics and work on the foundations and fundamentals? You got to think, there's us that work like that as well, but then there's everyone else in our team that have to deal with us too. And they're like, hold on, like we're drowning here. Like, we're very lucky, our team and our business, everyone's so aligned and so passionate. And they sit there, the comment they make, we bleed clean health green. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. But you've got to be careful and mindful. You don't want to burn people out as well. So even though they're so passionate. So I think it's helpful being able to kind of have the 2 different opinions, the 2 different sides, to bring everything back, and like, that's what makes it work. That's what stops you from making as many mistakes, having 2 heads and being able to sit down and go, okay, no, hold on, like let's find somewhere in the middle. Like let's
I think
give and take.
Our dynamic in business, it's kind of like, in some ways mirrors the dynamic at home, right? So for us as parents, like I look at it like this, like for me as a man, I take it as my responsibility to have the vision to push our family forward. This is where I want to take our family. This is where I want to do. This is the legacy I want to create. This is the legacy I want to build. And that is kind of manifest through the business, right? So the business's impact and mission gives the freedom of choice for the family legacy to be realized over time, right? And so I'm looking like I'm here now, and this is where I intend to go. But a lot of the intricate details in between that's what she takes care of, right? And so like, if I look at on the home front, it's like, it's the same thing. Like, to me, and in our household as the woman, like, she's the emotional heart and center of the household. She's the one that keeps the energy intact, the glue stuck together. You know, I might be out there having these big intentions and dreams and goals, and she often jokes and says, like, between when I first met you to now, like, she's like, you know, between what you wanted to exit the business on.
So it always fucking changes. There's
you know,
always, it's here. Hold on, I'm just going to move this goalpost over here, and I'm going to keep moving it.
You know, but that's just part of me as an entrepreneur, as a founder, and you know, at the end of the day, I want to create legacy. I intend to create legacy for my family, my kids, and you know, I've been very fortunate that, you know, she's bought into that vision.
Yeah. Well, that's where he's helped me grow, because I'm a nurturer. I care for everyone and worry about everyone else. So that's why, you know, my first 3 kids, I was literally anti anyone looking after them. I was like, if you have kids, it's your responsibility. You don't give them to the grandparents. You don't do this. I didn't have one night away for a dinner for 3 years from my first one. So I was totally like one-sided, and it's made me realize that you can have both, and they need to see that as well.
Well, we've both come from the extremes. Like I was, people say, oh, you've got 7 kids. And I'm like, 10 years ago, I had 0. 0, right? So like, I'm turning 41 now. At 31, I had none.
And he was that person that was like, look at that snotty, stinky kid
over
there.
I literally, I didn't want to touch kids. And then obviously I had one, and then got into a relationship with Lauren who had 3. And then all of a sudden, within a year, I've got 4 kids, right? And so it was a massive reality kind of shift and change. Nothing could prepare me in the theory. Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be fine. The theory of that was fine. The practicality of it, as she knows, was not fucking fine. I had no emotional tools to be able to deal with that whatsoever, right? And so, like, I came from, and where you guys are at now, and I was going to say, like, I tell people that, because how old are you now?
21.
Fuck, and you?
23.
Yeah, so like, you guys right now, the next 5 or 6 years, go fucking hard. Go fucking hard, because like, Lauren and I, we spoke about this recently, because, you know, Lauren had her first child at 19. 20?
Excuse me?
20?
I spent my 21st birthday with like a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah. So at your age, she was a mum, right? And so like, Lauren missed out on the entrepreneurial journey and being able to test herself in business literally up until 8 years ago, when we decided to do stuff together. So she sacrificed all that to be a mum, you know, talking about opposite ends of the extreme. You know, whereas me, I was just fucking doing my own thing, working 80 to 100-hour weeks, doing that for years. Like, I went through a period where I didn't take a holiday for nearly 7 years. You know, because I was just focused on building. But one thing we often discuss is like, wouldn't it have been nice, and we're grateful for our lives now, but wouldn't it have been nice to have, you know, had like pre-kids some time like you guys right now in our 20s, just to kind of see what we could do without any distractions.
So different. Like,
because we see that, you see these other entrepreneurs out on social media and stuff talking about that, and half of them like, you motherfuckers, you don't have kids. So like, that's great, everything that you're saying, that like, you don't have a morning routine, or that you don't do this or do that. But trust me, if you have one, or in particular, if you've got 7, and it's 7 kids from a blended family too, where you've got the emotional complexities of that and stuff like that as well, like, there's another layer of kind of responsibility and stress that you've got to deal with. And I think for us, like, we don't want to work 80-hour weeks. It doesn't interest us anymore. Because like, we have other things, like, it gets to 3-4 o'clock, we want family time now. You know,
so you need the routine. Like,
you need the routine, but it's more just like, when you get to a certain age and responsibility, like, you can work 80, 90-hour weeks. And like, so when we first got together, she wasn't working, I was. if we had the kids, like if we had the 7 kids now in how we were back then, I reckon would have spent an hour with the kids a week. The amount of time I was out at work. So I think...
But conversely, if we had started, I suppose always in hindsight, like if we had the opportunities you guys have to build and to work the way you do, like I wouldn't have, you'd be closer to your vision and your
100%.
reality. Like I went back to work this time when our daughter was 3 days old.
Yep.
And that was not planned. It was just, that's what we do for our vision, and because it didn't work out bringing someone else into the business and doing that.
I always say like there's a time and a place to make sacrifices, and right now while we don't have the responsibilities, we may as well go hard. Like,
exactly, you don't have big sacrifices
and risks
to make.
too. We can take so much bigger risks.
100%.
We've got nothing to lose.
That much to lose. Like, cool, we lose some money. Like,
Yep.
we don't have a
Don't
family
have a
to
roof
support.
over-
We don't have
exactly.
a mortgage to pay for.
Like we have lots of people saying like, oh, don't go so hard, you guys are going to burn out. It's like, these are the times where we should be working hard.
We spoke about it yesterday. He's like, we're not burning out. Got another 10, 15 years.
Anyway, like people saying that, it's just, and not to necessarily say they're naysayers, but no doubt you guys just block that shit out, because people look at us and think we're batshit crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
because they're not cut from, they don't have the same vision. They don't want the same. So everyone will always say someone else is crazy or that's wrong because it doesn't fit in what they're like.
Yeah.
They just, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with someone else wanting to work 9 to 5 or we talk about these PTs that kind of come into the industry for just the cushy, nice lifestyle of making a few $100 in a few hours and then going to the beach. Whatever. Each to their own.
That's what they
but
want.
Like,
I think you need to be seen as like a little bit crazy to unlock that new level of where you want to go to chase your ambitions.
Yeah.
Like I think people they label you like that to almost give themselves the safety net of like, oh, that they're only achieving that, but their lifestyle shit, they're so crazy, like blah blah blah. Yeah. But it's only because they're not chasing their ambitions to go that far, because they don't have those ambitions. Like I don't see anything that we do, like nothing's a burden. I love waking up and working and pushing myself as hard as I can. Like they're talking about burning out. Like I want to find where that point is. Like I haven't found it yet. I haven't got burns out. Like that excites me, getting to the point of burnout instead of fearful of it. Like people say, like I want to work to the point where I feel like, oh shit, I'm actually doing too much. But then maybe I'll strip it back, but probably not. Like I'll probably
you
try
love
to push further,
doing what you're doing, so it doesn't make it. It's not the same.
That's I mean, look, I've had 2 massive burnouts. I had 2. One was like triggered from like Lyme disease, and then the other was more just, I guess, a nervous breakdown in 2019. So like I've gone to that point and then beyond, right? So I agree with wanting to. It's like taking, without failing to fail is failing. If you don't take yourself to the point of like where your limitations are, like firstly, it's good to know where that is. But then secondly, like through that pain, you develop resilience, and through resilience, you build strength, right? And I think so there are benefits to that. But I think one of the big things, like for you guys, it's like, you guys are still in your kind of infancy of working together. Like, have you guys like sat down and had very kind of clear discussions of like what the intention is, what the like, 12 months from now, where are you guys at in terms of clients you're serving, numbers you're hitting? Have you guys?
I think, before even, when we first initially started with the physique project, we sort of would just be like a side thing. And we're like, this actually has the potential to do quite well. And then we were chatting about where we want to direct like our online clients ourselves and what we want to do with our businesses too, because I work crazy hours, like doing my own online stuff. But then how am I supposed to put in all this effort into our joint thing? And then it's like, it's not fair to leave that on him if I've still got my other work to do as well. So finding that balance, we've definitely discussed where we want it to go. But putting that in.
It's a big thing we discussed the other day with someone that we've gone into business with as a partnership. And it's about understanding your priorities and long-term vision. So yes, you're servicing all these clients now, and that's great. Like you love doing it, but you've got this project, everything that could be it will be a big, massive thing. So you have to. We talk about sacrifice, and it may not seem it. The sacrifice for you is finding something to channel that and where to channel those so that you can actually pull back and put the effort into the long-term goal. Don't look short-term. Don't look at, okay, these are the clients I have now. You have to look at the long-term thing, because we have the same thing with a business partner, and we're like, you need to make sacrifices for long-term gain. You're not going to, you can't just sit in the same thing doing it.
Like even if it's a monetary sacrifice
that's
now
what I mean.
that we need to make to, you know, service those clients to be able to put more effort into the long-term vision. But we did, and I think what we were touching on before we started recording is, because I've luckily had business experiences with partners in the past, I'm like, I make sure that everything's out in the open in the vision for what the future is, so that no one is unsure of what's happening. So like, yes, I've been burnt in the past with business experiences. So now when we sat down, I said, look, this is where I want to go. This is what I see. These are the sacrifices that we are going to need to make. Are we both on board with that? Like,
would you say the dynamic with you guys, it's like, obviously you've got your own vision and intentions. Like with what you guys are doing at the moment, is it more, I guess, the vision led by you and then the execution by, like how is your dynamic working together?
I think so. Yeah, I think like Cade's always had like a big vision for it, and he's very good with like that business side of things. Like, you tell me what to do and I'll execute it, I'll do it. And I've always said I'll support him. If he doesn't want to do something together, then I'll still support his own online business and help him bring that up too, as he would with me. But he's obviously created this idea and it sparked my interest, and we've got to work on, okay, what are your strengths here? What are my strengths? But what are also our weaknesses to work on?
Have you guys identified that yet?
I think so.
I think it's a working
I think
process.
you guys probably find like strengths and weaknesses.
No. We've 100% gone through it. Like, you know, compared to when we first started like working together in 2015 to now, like both of us have evolved as human beings, but in particular in business. Like the business people that we are today compared to back then, it's like I look back at that young Daine, I'm like, oh, you're a cute little fella, you know, like type thing, as Lauren would look at her former self as well, right? So I think it's like we're now super crystal clear on what we're good at. Like 100% crystal clear. Like I know for me, when it comes to business, I'm the one that will create the $1 billion idea. Like in saying that, she's good at that too, but you know, I've got the ideas. I'm good with creating the product around that. I'm good at communicating how we would communicate that product to our audience, and then obviously how to sell it, and then how to create partnerships to support that. So that's, you know, my skill set is kind of, I've realized, product marketing, basically the rainmaker, someone that will drive revenue. Whereas Lauren's very good at sales as well, but then obviously all of the minute details that kind of take it from idea to actually a product, that's where she excels.
I think we've definitely
being more strategic, like looking at the, you know, pulling it all apart. He'll go, this has got to happen, and I'm like, well, how? Actually, can't do this. He's like, just make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I say sometimes like Cade is extremely optimistic, and I'm not pessimistic. But I'm
don't worry, we have this debate all the time. He's like, don't be so pessimistic, don't be so negative. And I'm like, I am not being negative. I am laying everything on the table and telling you this is the pros, this is the cons.
That's what I do.
It's definitely like us. Like I see nothing as impossible. Like I struggle.
But it's not impossible. It's not that. It's
like I struggle to see that I can't achieve something. Like I struggle.
But you can, when you understand, like for example, the laws of quantum physics and how this universe around us actually exists. You can actually create your reality.
Yeah, and that's
you 100% can. But in saying that, it's not as easy as that.
That's it.
Like it is and it isn't.
But I sometimes see the path as a lot easier than what it will be, and then Tabby is the one that will bring us back and be like, okay, but we've got all these obstacles to overcome first. Like I'll just see that end goal. I'm like, cool, that's what we're gonna do.
What about things like, I'd say like when it comes to you know, things like knowing your data, financials. I think we're both strong in that. I'm probably more of a human calculator.
Yeah, I'm not. I think mine comes from a time, and this is the thing, and I know people would probably crucify me for this, but like being a mum, I find has probably stopped me. Not being a mum has not stopped me from excelling in certain areas that I would be better in, but it's more the time. So I have to learn to divide my time a lot more, my mental capacity. So there's some things that I know that if I wasn't having to be in the now of like jumping from kids, babies, doing this, doing that, I would be up here in regards to that skill set. But like, I know he can do it, so I just leave it. I'm like, well, I won't make that my priority.
That's the thing. We actually have a lot of like super diverse skill sets. Like for example, Lauren right now is CEO of Clean Health, right? And she's done it before for periods when I haven't. She would do it in a different way because in this case, she would be a non-founder CEO. I think a founder CEO compared to just CEO, very different. Because, you know, as a founder, like, you know, I remember birthing this business on a piece of paper on a couch as a 26-year-old trainer. So there's a lot more emotional attachment to it. I don't just look at it as an investor would or a shareholder. So whereas Lauren, even though she's bought into the vision and bleeds Clean Health and is Clean Health, to me, it's actually, you know, in many respects like my firstborn, because I founded this business pre-kids. So for me, it was my first child. That's the level of importance and attention that it got from me. And even though I've learned to separate from that and kind of look at it from a different context now as a parent, there's still, you know, even this morning I was kind of, I guess, clearing some stuff around my business journey this morning through one of my meditations. You know, I started crying and then she started laughing.
I did.
Super supportive, babe. Fuck.
I wasn't laughing at you. He's like, "Are you serious? Are you laughing at me?" And I was like, "Well, no."
She was just laughing. She's like, "Fuck, you got so much baggage to clear."
Yeah.
But it's because, like, in my case, just from a personal development standpoint, and it's, you know, I spent so much of my 20s and then 30s just business. Nothing about actually becoming a better version of me. Yeah. And so when I had my breakdown/breakthrough 4 years ago at 37, it's kind of like the last, that like just unloaded so much childhood stuff, life stuff.
I did my breakdowns 20 years.
Yeah, she did hers as a teenager. Yeah. I mean, you know, Lauren kind of went through that dark night of the soul. You know, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but she went through that dark night of the soul when she was a teenager. Yeah. You know, like what, 12, 13 years old. So she kind of went through all of her stuff, you know, when she was much earlier on.
I think
she's got a lot of stuff that she could share.
It doesn't worry me. Like, look, I was a heroin addict from when I was probably 12 years old onwards, and I've been clean for 20 years now. Like, so I went through a lot.
Longer than that now.
No, it's 20 years in November. You know, but I went through a lot of tumultuous period. You know, I didn't live at home. I ran amok, was trying to, you know, have my own breakdown in life after my family kind of fell apart. You know, going from, you don't have to come from a bad family or nothing. Like, it's just the insecurity in the home and things that are going on. And yeah, like literally ran amok doing God knows what.
Lauren's gone through more stuff,
jail,
she was in jail, like under the age of 15 than most people go through in their lifetime. So, you know, I think when people talk about kind of, you know, processing trauma and kind of going through those experiences, I think karmically, you know, when I went through my stuff at 37, because I'd had a pretty good I'd had a good run in life. Like, I mean, I didn't grow up wealthy or anything like that, but I'd never really gone through much adversity because I'd always won. Yeah. I'd never lost. If I did study, I was the best. If I did sports, I won. If I did business, I'd won. And then I had my first loss in, you know, kind of 2014, 2015, when Lauren came into the business, and then I had to kind of re-evolve from that. But, you know, 2019 is when I really went through my thing at 37, you know, and so her having gone through such a, you know, tumultuous kind of childhood and the traumas that she went through, she was actually able to support me through that and have empathy for it, because prior to that, I was like, oh, depression, you're too fucking weak in mind.
Yeah, we have
anxiety, harden the fuck up, princess, all right?
I genuinely find this so surreal right now because, again, I won't touch on Tabby's stuff before unless she wants to, but you guys are almost exactly the same. She's gone through very similar traumas in her childhood, in terms of.
But I think,
a lot
like,
of stuff.
open the can up, like, just fucking crack the bottle open.
Like-
Both you guys came from very affluent families, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
That doesn't mean
So,
everything's rosy.
so, you know, both, like, I came up, like, obviously, you'd see the rich people and driving the Lamborghini and stuff like that. I'm like, I fucking want that. I want to live in that house. I want to fucking do that. Like, fuck, I'm going to, you know, because I was surrounded by poverty.
Yeah.
Right? I was surrounded by poverty. And so when I came into a relationship with Lauren had come from a background where money wasn't an issue.
So he'd always be like, look at what you came from. And I'm like, that doesn't mean.
It doesn't, money doesn't buy you happiness.
That's why I know that. I tell him all the time.
It's actually crazy to me, the mirroring. Like, it's literally that. Tabby came from that type of stuff, but then as we get to know each other.
And just on a side note, that's fucking good because, like, being transparent, one of the things that I cleared in my meditation this morning, I was actually back in my childhood home in the inner western suburbs of Concord, which was probably just as big as, like, this section here. And so I was actually in there in my vision with three of our kids, like, clearing this whole kind of poverty, lack of abundance mindset around money, because growing up, money was always something that we struggled to attract as a family, right? Whereas obviously, you know, coming from a different environment that you did, or that Lauren did, that was not the struggle. The struggle was more around probably the emotional relationships between the family and the unit and stuff like that. I know you went through that with your parents and divorce and stuff like that. So it was a very, it's a good thing coming from that background, because you come into a relationship like this and you can look at things like wealth creation, you know, having an abundant mindset in a very different way than someone like Cade or I can.
It's 100% been the dynamic, I would say. Like, I came from similar thing, like living with my single mom she was 20, she had me at similar 20 years old, my mom had me. We were living in a tiny 1-bedroom place like this in the middle of Johannesburg in South Africa. And I came and, like, saw where Tabby was coming from, and I had almost the exact same mindset what you saying, like you had speaking and seeing Lauren. I was like, you don't know the difference, like that was never a worry for you. And then as we've, like, unpacked everything, I've seen that we all face the same
Everyone
challenges,
has their
just
own
in
story,
different,
just in a different
in different
way.
views. Like, yes, money was never a problem for her, but some of the issues were a lot greater than issues I faced in terms of the money side of things. And, like, I won't touch on it, but her family issues are definitely a lot greater than what I was facing, even from coming from the quote unquote poverty side of things. And it's actually crazy to just see the similarities between.
I think as well, like, it's something I struggled with opening up to someone, because I had everything taken away from me and I've been alone. I, like, built up my independence and I was so comfortable with who I was that it was like, I don't want to go into business and then have someone else potentially take that away from me. But being able to break that down, it's like, yes, everyone goes on about you need to be independent, you need to be confident, but sometimes it's also not a good thing when it's too far one end. And it's nice to be able to just, like, be able to tell someone, like, okay, what's happened, how to release this. And I think it's made the business even flourish even more.
For you, you know, it sounds like, and you haven't really opened up to your story, and I'll let you go into it if it's something that you want to. Now I feel comfortable talking about my story, but it took me a long time and, you know, evolution to get there as well. But the more comfortable you get in it, it shows the more you've let go of everything. So you can't change your past or try and pretend that it didn't happen or forget about it. I think you need to embrace what's happened in your past.
100%.
You need to be accepting of it. I know it's always a lot easier than said than done, but, like, when you accept that, you truly liberate yourself from it, and you don't, it doesn't have that burden on you anymore. I think it's really important, and it doesn't come into your other relationships. Like, I was still, you know, quite good, and it evolved a lot even when we got together, but even I brought stuff into our relationship, you know, and just being shut down and not wanting to open up and things. And I brought it into the business as well, of just being cold's not the right word, but, like, just, you know, you have a wall up, so to speak.
Yeah, I can come across as very cold, like, I'm well aware of that. But with you guys, if you found, like, you have had these differences outside of the business, how do you not let that affect the business for, like, that day?
We don't, to be honest, we don't really fight anymore. Like, we
When we fight, we fight. No,
Yeah,
but we don't.
But how often?
We don't.
Like, once a year?
We did.
Like,
I think
it's-
they're talking about, so before, like,
Oh,
we did.
I would say, yeah, initially we did more, but to be honest, a lot of that was triggered from me because I'd felt at the time, because I'd suffered, like I'd lost millions, I'd suffered such a loss for the first time in my life. Like it was that ego around it. It's just like, as much as I wanted her in the business and wanted to partner up and help and do all that, all of a sudden, like I was kind of having to lick my wounds. And so if a new suggestion came in or something that I didn't feel like, well, that wasn't mine, like that was triggering my insecurity around it all. So it wasn't like the arguments that we were having on initially, it wasn't her, it was me. And it was only when I started to actually process through my stuff that, that I think that kind of stuff dissipated.
The main ways I would say how to deal with it first is work out, and people evolve and change over time, but what is the best, like, is he a confrontational person, like wanting to deal with things then and there? Some people are like, they can't leave an argument, they just want to deal with it then and there. Other people are like, leave me alone, I need space, I need time. I think learning what each person needs so that you can create that either space or you can sit down and actually come to some resolution. I used to go through a stage where it was like, I needed it resolved then and there. It would eat at me and I'd be like kind of in his face, and I'm, I can get pretty fiery and cranky as well.
Get out of my face, midget.
And I'm like, and I just think, but like, I think when you realize what each person kind of, how they react to situations, that can help you work out whether you're going to address it then and there, or do you just take space, step back and actually work on the business? I'd get even more stubborn. I'd like take space and then I'd get on sales or get on calls and I'd be like, I just closed $8,000, I'm like trying to stick it up him. I'm like, here you go. Because he'd go, I'd be like, oh, I just need some space now. And he'd be like, go, run away, don't stick to your, what you need to be doing. And I'm like, oh, show him.
I'd call to question her professionalism. I'd be like, emotional woman, it's a type thing. But like the reality it doesn't serve anyone. I think you guys have obviously partnered up for a reason. And I think like even going back to what Lauren was saying to you about like kind of past trials and tribulations that you've gone through personally, like I look at it like this, had Lauren not gone through all the stuff that she'd experienced she experienced more trauma under the age of 15, 16, the worst stuff that you can imagine from society. But had she not gone through that, she wouldn't have built the resilience to just be able to adapt to anything and have that abundant mindset of like, if I can fucking get through that shit, I can do anything.
I just don't regret it now. Like,
yeah,
I don't.
You'd be grateful for it in some way or shape.
I'm grateful for it in some ways. Like, and then Daine actually taught me, because there was a time I went through where I was like, after I got through it and I was like, would see people struggling with stuff. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you an idiot? Like, you have no idea what life's like. And it actually taught me to be more empathetic, because it taught me that everyone has their own stories. Just because I don't see the relevance in that and I think you're being a little bitch. No, just because I think that it doesn't mean much, doesn't mean to that person it's not a massive thing. So it actually helped give me empathy towards other people and realize that, like you said, like everyone has their own story and everyone's going through things. However small or whatever we think, it's emotions. It's we're entitled to have emotions and to express and to feel things, and no one can take that away from us.
Yeah, I think like there was this one quote / philosophy I read that I always think about, and it was like saying that if everyone in the world had to like dump their problems in a pile, you would probably pick your problems to keep if you could choose what you're going to deal with, because one, it's familiar, but two, it's led you to where you are now and you know how to deal with everything. Like there's no way if we all had to chuck the issues and trials and tribulations we've dealt with in life, that I'm going to pick someone else's there. Like, if you have that choice, and I think that if you really look at that from an outsider's perspective, we are all grateful for the problems that we've dealt with in our lives, because one, it taught us all the resilience issues, whatever, how we deal with things, but definitely has led us to the points that we're at in life. So I always try to think of it that way. Like, everyone's dealing with their own stuff, but if I had the choice, I'd probably always deal with the stuff that I'm dealing with compared to whatever.
I don't know if Tabby would agree with that, but I see the concept and where you're going with it, and it's definitely like there's always someone worse off. Look, you can see people that have literally rose to the top from nothing and having massive issues, like going through the worst.
You got to, I think, like. Again, we spoke previously about like how many hours per day we're willing to work now, because we obviously have other priorities now as parents and a bit further down the path. It's like my bit of advice to you guys would be like, clearly define what's important to you guys right now in life from a value standpoint. Obviously, just from an observation standpoint, your health and physique and individual brands and careers are important, right? Because that's a big part of what you guys are doing, competing and whatnot. So you guys need to be aligned from that standpoint, which you guys are. And then obviously having a look at other things, like what are the financial goals, what are the impact goals, what are the potential family goals in the future, whatever that might be. Being very clear and having that out in the open now. But then, and that's top level. Secondary level to that is, now that we're aligned on the mission, like this is where we want to go across family, fitness, finance, impact, or whatever your pillars are. It's like, okay, looking at your skill set now and your skill set now, remove fucking ego, and what are the 5 things that you are the best at right now that you're better than Tabby at? And then conversely, what are the 5 things that you're better than Cade at? And it's not that you couldn't get to her level on those things or vice versa, or potentially exceed. It's just that, like, return on time investment, if you're better at those 5 things now, that's what you fucking take ownership of. And then conversely, your 5 things, you take ownership of that. And then that's what you guys get out there right now to build momentum and speed towards your targets.
And this isn't even just business. This is
life.
Is emotional,
mental
100%. Life.
Yeah,
like, what can you manage and control better? What can you, do you have a temper? Do you have this? Yeah. It's everything, because that's what actually helps you balance and level each other. I watched a podcast the other week and they were talking about marriage isn't 50-50, and it's not. A relationship isn't 50-50. You know what it should be? It should be, I'm 30 today, like, all right, well, you know what? I'll give you that 70, I'll hold you up today. And that's how it is, like, because we're not all 50-50. Some days we have shit days. Some days it goes on for years and someone has, like, but that's what you do. And then it will all even out at one point in time. Like, you just need to be able to carry the other person. That's the whole point. You care enough and you're aligned on the mission enough and you have the same goals that you're happy to carry that person through the trials and tribulations, through everything, and it evens out like that.
Because I'm sure if we could go back in time, again, I don't regret the process that we've been through over the last decade, but if we could go back to 2015, when we kind of blended relationship and business, right? So 8 years ago, if we could have had people that were further down the path right now sitting opposite with us, telling us what we're telling you, like, literally, if we would have been able to map out, like, actually write it out, map out our values, map out our stuff, and not just like you can know it, but actually fucking write it out, and then like jot out, like, from a business, because at the end of the day, business is a tool for impact and choice in life. That's what it is. Like, your business provides, I guess, a resource or an ability to go and impact a particular segment of society, which will bring back a certain level of income. And that income is going to bring you back a certain level of choice in life, right? And so if I could have sat back down now knowing what I know, it's like, it would have just solved all of the, like, it doesn't matter. You're going to have, because you're programmed like me, some hardwired male fucking alpha ego bullshit in there that fucking rears its ugly head from time to time. And then you, because you've gone through your shit, you got your fucking wall up. When he pulls that out, it probably just makes you more inward and like, fuck this. And then it just creates separation and distance. And then the 48 hours that you fucked around in that space, you've just fucking lost impact and income.
Because you miss bottom level, business is here. Emotional and mental state is what actually gives you the ability to be able to work on those business things. Like, so I think if you don't have that stability there, it's going to be a slower impact. Like, the business is going to grow slower than if you're like stable there, and not stable, but it's being able to grow from it. Like, you can see in your eyes, like, there's obviously, you've got a lot that you're still trying to work through.
She's trying to trigger you. Careful.
I feel like I'm at my therapist.
No, but like, as I said to you before, the point of acknowledging it and expressing it and being able to sit in it is like, that is the biggest, like, hurdle to get over for being able to overcome it. Like, you can't sit there, like, trust me, I used to sit there and not even internalize, things would happen and it would just make me feel a certain way. When I actually accepted and spoke about everything that had gone on, it made me accept it and not have those internal triggers so much. Like, the internal dialogue I used to have with myself was absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, and I would be having this with myself, like it wasn't even real. It was in my own head because of the stuff that I had.
Well, I've seen how much it's dissipated from you, though. Like, it used to be more the first 5 years of our relationship. Like, there would something come up or an incident, and it would trigger her back to something that had happened, and then she'd go all quiet and, you know, closed off, and then it would finally get out of her that it, you know, brought back a memory of this. It might have been something with me, but more often than not, it was something to do with something that she'd experienced in her childhood or in a situation or something like that. But I think, like, you know, for you, like, she's, you know, to me, she's the master of acceptance. It's all to me what it comes down to, like, you know, recognize, accept, investigate, and nurture every thought, feeling, and emotion that you have. And, you know, ultimately, like, how you flow through in life is, it's related back to how you react to your thoughts and your thoughts and your experiences. And so had we kind of maybe gone through a bit of that process that I just discussed then with you guys, like, we would be much further ahead in impact and business and that in life than we are right now. We had to go through, and to be honest, it's probably more 80% me. I had to go through my leveling up as a human being the hard way the last 10 years, you know, like fucking divorces, family court, not seeing my daughter, fucking, you know, being sued by former partners, or like so much shit. I went through so much stuff on a personal level, and then we've gone through so much stuff, like, you know, being candid, we've gone through fucking affairs, we've gone through a multitude of shit, you know, like I remember having bruised eyes and bruised ball sack and all types of shit, you know, like, so, you know, everything, like, and like, actually we've also gone through near-death experiences. She's nearly died twice in the last decade.
And you've been my biggest challenge. I came into this thinking, oh, I'm also evolved, and here's this guy that just fucking riles me up and literally brings out like this crazy beast animal out of me, and I'm like, but I'm so cool.
That's called passion, sweetheart.
Like, I've dealt with everything. Only one that could literally send me crazy. Like,
does he drive you crazy at times?
Sometimes, but I definitely drive him crazy. So
yeah, but the main thing is
your insecurities and things.
Definitely, like,
come from?
Honestly, I don't know about you, but it's actually nice to hear like what you guys are saying, because it's definitely like what we've been through. We don't have like any issues. The issue is like I just withdraw and like I put my wall up, and then obviously we got to work around like some things with him, but like it's just coming together with like, again, our strengths and our weaknesses. But it is nice to hear from like your end that it's not just us, other people are going through it as well.
How does he respond when you, how do you respond when she puts your wall up?
We had it this morning. I'm like so, like, I want to say masculine and brutal and straight to it. Like this morning, I could tell something was up and like her wall was up. I'll literally close the door and I'll be like, we're not walking out until you tell me what's going on. And we can just handle it and then we can go. Like, there's no, why do we need to have an issue? Like, say what the problem is, we fix it.
But see, I used to, so like, one thing I learned, like I come from, like, you know, I was in the military at 18. I come from a very, like, I was raised to be fucking Captain America. Like, you know, like the martial arts, everything was strict. And like literally, I don't think I showed an emotion until I was about 30 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Like literally, I was a fucking robot. Right?
Healthy?
Yeah, but that's what kind of like led to this emotional outburst at 37 where I was suicidal, having to get medicated. I was on antipsychotics. I was sent to a fucking
like, get rid of him.
She had to get rid of me for a few months. It was too much because I'd literally had a lifetime's 35, 37 years of emotions built out that just literally went bang, right? Fucking bang, exploded. Like I was sleeping 75 minutes a night for 6 months. Like it was, you know, in retrospect, I'm grateful for that experience. But like I didn't, I was very IQ based up until about, like I first started to grasp the concepts of emotions and influence and opening up and being, I guess, letting your wall down and being more authentic when I was about 26, 27 with my my girlfriend at the time, who was the opposite of me. She was literally, she's actually she's all EQ, super charismatic, walks in a room, everyone knows that she's there, extremely kind of good looking, all that type of stuff. Well, actually, I'm good looking, all that shit too. So we had that in similar, but like the personality, she was very opposite to me. And then from her, I started to learn that, you know what, maybe it is okay to show my emotions, and maybe it is okay to be authentic. And then I gradually started to move that way. Then my second relationship kind of, I think, pushed that back a bit because it was so fake, and it was all for the wrong reasons. Like, she was a handbag, she was the Miss International.
He literally was like, I have a checklist. You must be. You must be this tall. You must be this. You must be.
Your foot size must be this.
Are you serious?
Your symmetry must be this.
He's like, Lauren, how did I end up with you? You're not like your age.
Had to be good breeding
short,
stock.
You're like, I was like, are you serious?
And so Lauren was the first time in my life where,
you swear you're
yeah,
short,
it's kind of like we were very upfront. Like, we were both married at the time. We had an affair, on paper, we had an affair, and it was the first time in my life that, or for either of us, that we'd either ever done anything like that. But we realized that first night, and we distinctly remember, I looked up at the ceiling and I said, "Fuck, I'm going to marry you." And we looked at it, she's like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, "But how the fuck's that?" Like,
we were both the total opposite.
We were both the total opposite.
Him is like this ego, like I couldn't stand people like that. I was like, "Fuck, you're a tosser." Like, seriously.
Well, hey, I took advantage of the coach-client relationship. She was one of my better clients.
Another black eye.
But it was kind of that, the whole opposites attract thing, and we had to, as part of our journey, we both she learnt to be a bit more selfish from me. I learnt to be less selfless, or to be more selfless. I had no concept of empathy prior to her. I learnt some of that whilst being with her now. She was, and so it's like we've blended each other out, but obviously it hasn't come without its trials and tribulations. So I think, again, I don't know what your advice would be, but for me, it's like, you could cut through a lot of the shit that we went through if you can just get super clear on basically your values, your missions, who's good at this, who's good at that, and then just reevaluate it every 6 to 12 months. Because one thing is, I've gotten better at certain things over time, for example, in business, that maybe I wasn't as strong as before, that I'm actually more suited to now. You know what I mean? Now, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to we know each other so well. We've been through so much shit that we just get it. But I think I don't know, that would be my advice. I don't know what you say.
Yeah, mine, but I think bringing it back to, and I think that's all great advice for you guys, but where you're at the moment, it's coming down to a bit more granular. It's not as top level as that. That's pretty, I would sit down and say, okay, for you, what is it that triggers me to go in? You need to actually really dig deep. You're very lucky. You've got someone that's a bit more empathetic. He was fucking outright brutal and rude to me, when I was like that. He didn't get it at all. There wasn't just, tell me what's wrong here, I'm here to nurture you. Because he was so stressed over business, where he was going through a rough time at the time. it was pretty brutal at times. So I think
I would have turned around and said, it's like,
you're a fucking moron, literally. And it was like, excuse me, so I think you need to sit down though and say, okay, what triggered you this morning? If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to obviously discuss it, but
I don't even know.
No, you do. Because, and when you say that, you know what? When you say that, I know this. When you say that, it's because when you sit back, it's something that was so fucking stupid or...
No, it was. Looking back at it now, it is dumb. But from being, going through my childhood, my parents, I didn't feel ever really wanted me. So obviously, I left that environment, we were never really looked after and I felt alone. So now if I'm not given that comfort and I feel okay, someone else doesn't want me then. Yep. So why am I here?
I was the exact
and
same.
it's something that it wasn't even an issue at all, but I just didn't
felt
feel
he was
accepted.
maybe laser focused on work, and so you felt not acknowledged.
Exactly that's exactly what it was.
You got to understand, and I see a lot of myself in Cade. Cade's actually further down the path than I am at his age in terms of just emotional thing. But you just remember, he's so focused and clear on like what his intention is, his vision is. So sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's just the sole focus in your head. Having the emotional bandwidth to have a fucking deep and meaningful or go there, it's just too much.
They're not even noticing though that there's something
and he doesn't
wrong.
notice.
It's literally that's what happened. Like what happened, to give you the scenario of what happened this morning is last night I like kind of fell asleep early. Tabby came to bed. I woke up and I was like, fuck, I need to work. And I went and like started running our Facebook ads and like working on my laptop the whole night. And I worked until like 3 a.m. this morning and just fell asleep out there where I was. And then Tabby was upset that like she had come to bed. I got up, I left, and then
I used to do stuff like that.
So you know what you need to do? You guys need to actually define when do you time, because like he's not doing that based off you. Like he used to do it all the time. I was like, I cried myself to sleep. He's like, I didn't even fucking know that was an issue.
That's exactly what happened. I was like, it's literally exactly what happened. I was like, I didn't even know. I was like in working in the lounge on my laptop.
But that's
like
not good. You shouldn't be doing like late at night. There's a time, and we've never really done that unless we had a full-blown falling out. Never go to bed angry. Like I think 2 things. And after a certain time at night, I know it's been hard because you guys have been traveling and everything. There's nothing wrong with being laser focused, working to your career, working to your vision and your dreams. Like, but we don't after a certain time at night. It's us time. Unless like, and we do. People say, how do you separate work? We talk about fucking work lying in bed at night. We talk about
we're passionate about it. Like so to us, it's no issue.
I don't see them.
That's not an issue. Like you don't go off on your own doing something. Okay, there's certain times when it's, all right, this is us, like we have our ritual, we go and watch our show together, or I fall asleep on him and he gets shitty because I haven't watched the show, but like you go and do something together, you watch your show, then if you need to run Facebook ads, say like, hey babe, like we haven't run any ads today, should we go and get them done now? And you go do it together. Like if that is your vision and your purpose, like that's what we do. We essentially don't do anything outside of that, like without doing it together, or, you know, it'll always cross over into the relationship because you've got your end goals are the same. But like you need to separate, especially for Tabby, to be able to just say, so she doesn't have to feel like that, because I know what it's like feeling like that. You'll sit there and you'll feel a certain way and then you'll think, oh, this is stupid. So you don't want to say anything or say how you feel. Then you internalize it. Then you feel even worse because you've internalized it. And then he used to get shitty because he'd feel like, I'm not present or not there. Then he would get shitty at me, and then because he's like, you know, I shouldn't say the male-female thing, but like, let's be honest, males and females are different. So then he will sit there and it was like wanting to have a fight because I've gone internal, then he's gone internal because like I'm like not there. And it's like, fuck, you know what? All we wanted was each other's attention. Like the whole issue came over the fact that we loved each other so much, we felt rejected. It comes from rejection. She felt rejected by you, then you feel rejected by her.
And it comes from a feeling that you've then reacted to.
Yep.
Right? Because you haven't, like, you got to and it's one thing I've learned, like everything she said was spot on. Like we now, like we're very strict with like, this is our time now. And don't get me wrong, there'll be times when it's just like, fuck, I've got to go do something. And like a lot this year, there's been a lot of like, you know, working more on the weekend than I would like, especially again when you got kids and it's stuff like that. But it also is what it is. Like we accept that we're in the season of now. And the season of now basically means that right now we've got shit to do. And that's fine. That's fine. Now, is it going to be like that forever? No. Has our season of now probably extended out for longer than we would like? Yes. But we're also, because we're so aligned and we can see where we're going, the growth and stuff like that, we also know it's not forever. So we're totally cool with that, you know? So I think it's, yeah.
You just gotta do it together. Like really, you can't be going and doing shit like that. Like, you can't wake up and go and think it's all right. Like you're not a bachelor fucking living on your own. Like, sorry. Like, you know, you need to be mindful of someone else. Like, especially in that time. Like, it's, you know.
I think it's just like you mentioned, the communication of it as well, though. Like.
Yeah, but she's not going to communicate with you.
Me. Saying, like, I just got up and went out and like.
Yeah, but there'll be a lot of times.
So I rarely stuff like that. It's more like I might get up at like 4 o'clock, 3 or whatever, and just get up and do work. But I'll say to her, I've got to go and do some of this stuff now.
Yeah, and that's what I.
And then she'll make some like, and then I'll go do it. But it's not just getting up and doing it.
It's not just like Tabby probably looking at it now, didn't even know where I went. Like I just got up and walked out and like, but to me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on this for us, for the future, like to build something and like put it all into place to keep going. And
that's the thing I've had to realize as a man as a man in a relationship when you've got a loved one. It's like the reality is, especially when you've got massive goals and intention, all the type of stuff. It's like that's awesome. Like keep that. Like for me, I want to set an example for the kids, both the male kids and the female kids, that you should go and chase your dreams and have your intentions. But the practicality of that on a day-to-day is when you are in a relationship, like you've just got to water the grass.
And like you've got to be aware, like, and I come back would probably get shot for saying this, but women, the reason why, like we talk about founders and ideas, I have ideas, but I've never sat there and gone, oh, I want to have $1 million business, because I'm inherently more nurturing and look at the family and that there's time and you've got to spend it here and there. Whereas men, they do, but they don't. Like they're looking at providers. They're the providers. We're going to provide. So that's why, for him, he's looking at it, that aspect, but you're looking at it emotionally from yourself with how you're feeling. So it's just understanding that there's a different brain chemistry and makeup to needs, he'll be like, but this is what I'm doing. I'm like, but that's not fucking important to me. Like, I don't care. Like, I do, but I don't. Like, at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. Like, I just want to feel loved. I want to feel supported. I don't want to feel hurt. Like, it's simply as it comes down to. Like, men were hardwired to not worry about that. However, they're starting to evolve and open up to realizing that men can have feelings. There's nothing wrong with that. Men should actually, get more in touch with how they feel. But we've still got that underlying hardwiring for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Oh, look, I'm a fucking hunter. I'm going out there to hunt. I'm going out there to grab the food and bring it back to the family. And if anyone comes in the house, I'll chop their head off type thing. Like, that's how I'm hardwired. But the reality is we're not fucking cavemen. Like, you know what I mean, right now? So the practicalities and the reality of modern day life. And I think it's especially, when you're working together as a man and woman within the business too, it adds another layer of dynamic to it, right? Because I think, like as I mentioned initially, we didn't have that dynamic, and now we do work, together in the business in leadership roles, management roles, those kind of like alpha type roles where you're, commanding the troops per se. But I think, one thing, in particular with women, like I come from a background probably like you, although actually you were saying single mum, so she was probably working. For me, mum was in the kitchen, right? And I used to think that was the way to go. But I've realized now, especially as being in a relationship with Lauren and as a father, I don't want that for my fucking daughters. I want my daughters to be fucking savages too. I love that they get to see this beast of a fucking woman, beautiful beast, going, I'd hit it, going out there and showing that you can do both. And I think a lot of men, like I used to, I wouldn't say feel threatened, but I would feel insecure in my manhood because there's a woman now doing that part of what I was intrinsically programmed to do.
I definitely do get that sometimes.
And that's especially if you come hardwired, on a subconscious down there it's somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you might feel that. That's why when the people go out there and they talk about one of our friends, said he's retired his wife before the age of 30. I'm like, I love you, man, but I don't fucking agree with that. Retire? What, is she dumb? But she's got nothing to provide. Like what type of, are you saying that is the role model for your daughter now or for your child? I don't agree with that. I used to kind of think more like that, but I think now, especially as a father with daughters, I don't want my daughters to have a role model of a woman that her job is to cook, clean and serve her man and that's it. If she wants to go out there and start $1 billion business and go and do that and still be a mum, then fucking props to her.
Each to their own, but mentally become stagnant too. You need to be able to keep growing in your mind and mentally.
Remember that chat we had, that crow's nest that time?
Well, exactly. There's a reason why women sit there, they always say to me, how do you have 7 kids? How do you do this? Like, I go crazy with one. They're going crazy with one because they feel like they're not mentally challenged, outside of the home. You know, like I was always very lucky. I always looked at business opportunities. Even before we were together, we like did some developments, things like that. Like I've always had that mindset. So I always felt like I'd research online, I'd look online and do things. But I believe a lot of the women, and I shouldn't speak for other women, but like I believe a lot of it comes from, you know, being at home, looking after kids, feeling like they don't have anything else to give. Like they're just, well, this is all I am. They're identifying themselves 100%. With just being a mum. They've lost their identity.
And it's limiting. And you see it, like you see it even through students that come through. So I've been a mum for 15 years. I've literally raised the kids now, and my husband's out banging his PA, fucking kids are not here and stuff like that. I'm frumpy now. What's left for me? You know, so I think like obviously in our case we're kind of doing it at an extreme right now, where there's an extreme amount of workload, an extreme amount of kids. But again, it's the season of now.
Yeah.
You know, 2-3 years from now, that's not going to be the case. You know, like we're not going to have to kind of work at this same pace, but we accept it for what it is right now. And you know, I think it's like that content that you put up the other day or yesterday. It's like just being an example for our kids, especially the girls. You know, I think like the more I've evolved and grown, like even as a dad, I don't want my daughters to have to rely on me.
Yeah. It doesn't even just come back to work though. Like women at home that are working it's even having a hobby, having anything outside of something that's not just about them or about everyone else. Because you give so much, you do feel empty.
And let's be honest, like if you've got big, bold fucking intentions, and you've got like your partner is not just philosophically aligned but skill set aligned to reaching that, then fucking do it. Because you're going to shorten the time horizon. Something that you as the bloke might take you 10, 15 years to do. Like if you've got a woman that is working with you side by side to achieve that vision.
Pragmatically, so you don't make as many mistakes too.
You could do it. You could do it in 5 years. You know what I mean? And so it's like we've been the perfect yang and yin. I'm like fucking. I don't have any limitation from where I can set myself to go. You know. But then I also have her as a reality check from time to time to, you know, even yesterday there was some stuff, I'd done our financial forecasting for the next 4 or 5 years, and there was just some stuff, I'm like, I was ready to kind of submit that to our accountants, and I was like, no, I want you to have a look at it because this is important information to look at. And so she came in and provided some insight and input, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So collectively, that bit of work now is at a much higher level because we've both contributed to it. You know, I might have led the creation of it, but because I trust, respect, and value her input, now that she's looked at it from her female lens, her more kind of practical, like men are dreamers, women are more practical. If I was to sum it up in general, men fucking dream of legacy, fucking monumental fucking statue out the front of the house.
No,
you know, you know, have you ever had that thought about having a statue out the front of your house? Yeah, have you? Yeah, exactly. We both have. Yeah, we've thought about the statues, right?
Yeah.
Right? Women don't. You're like, yeah, sweet dear, but you know, let's just go have a bath with the kids now, type thing, right? So it's kind of, that's where I think if you can find a woman like that, and you know, I've been so blessed to do that with her, it's going to unlock both of you to achieve greater levels of success. So
we really do value and appreciate the opportunity to be able to do these type of things with you guys and be in your, I guess, ecosystem in life. Like we learn so much. Even just yesterday, we walked away and we were like, yeah, this is dope. Like it's cool to be able to see Lauren and Daine and learn from them and like.
We're grateful for the opportunity. Like I think, you know, one thing I learned from Charles Poliquin was like, you know, just passing on to the next generation, and fucking life goes like that. You said you're 21. I'm like, fuck, I'm turning 41. You know what I mean? Like you could be my fucking daughter, right? It's like, fuck, that sounds weird. But no, like that's the reality of how quick life goes by, and it's like I look at the skills and experiences that we've, I guess, climbed or picked up over the last decade. It's kind of, if you can pass that on to someone so that you know you don't necessarily go through the same amount of pain.
Yeah, because I think it was when we were in Texas, Hormozy was talking about it, saying. Like it is supposed to get easier as generations go on. Like
it is.
we're learning from your mistakes, so our path we might reach in the next 5-10 years, the half the amount of time as you. But then we want to be able to do that for other people, that then they can do it in a shorter period than us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean, and it doesn't mean that like...
I've been so fortunate. I've literally had some of the best mentors in the world over the last 20 years in the field.
Right? And I feel like that's what we're getting now. Like I genuinely feel
whether or not I started in the gym and I had some of the OGs of the Australian fitness scene. I had my fucking granddad, who was one of the founders pretty much of the fucking weight training game in Australia back in the 40s and 50s, teaching me as a teenager. There's Olympic champ, all that stuff there in there. So like, I've been so blessed to have all of these awesome teachers. Like for me, it's like, well, 100%, like that's legacy, it's passing it on. Yeah. It's almost like a family tree within the industry.
Oh, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And
like
think of like everything he achieved in his lifespan. He could have done a lot quicker if it was in this day and age. But like he had to do that for you to be where you are. And then we need where you guys are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool, like I know you think about legacy a lot, and I do as well. Like it's cool to know that it's passed on. Like Charles's legacy now lives on through you, and I know yours will do the same through us. Like now everything that we achieve, that we do in the next 20, 30, whatever years, a large portion of that is your legacy living on, because it's now fed us and given us that standpoint.
I look at it's like, the teachers that I've had, they've kind of provided a core foundation. Right, it's like a general preparation phase and periodization. Yeah, like they've given the base kind of skills and knowledge and experiences. Then I've just added my own pizzazz to it, and you guys will do the same thing. And then the people that you're kind of chatting with 5-10 years from now, they'll be doing it too, because they'll be coming up in a very different era than even what you guys are.
Yeah. Far out, it changes.
Crazy. Like it's like, even look at fucking, we were just talking about it before, threads.
Yeah.
Threads, like where the fuck did that come from? I didn't even know, like it was just, there's a new app, bang, Threads.
And now it's going to be the new next biggest thing.
We were around when it started with MySpace.
I remember, I can even remember setting up my Facebook account in 2007 in an apartment on Herbert Street in St. Leonard, Sydney. When I was a young trainer, and thinking, okay, what's this thing, Facebook? I'll jump on it. And it was just a way to connect with friends from school and shit. And then all of a sudden it's like, all these social platforms and everything that we're doing today. So I think you guys have such an awesome opportunity in today's space with social to create, 7-8 figure business over the next 10 years in a much quicker, more direct and more succinct kind of easier manner, not having to fucking hire a site, get all these staff, do all this stuff. It's like literally just fucking, be the brand, embody what you're about, put the fucking content out every day, and just let the rest fucking figure itself out.
The business opportunities and not the potential to be able to impact the world at a greater scale is so much easier now.
I think that's where it initially started for us, because obviously we both are competing. We're like, well, we already are our own brands, and if we're going to look this certain way and live this lifestyle, we may as well build on that and get something more out of it. And Cade knew my direction of where I want to go with my competing. So his idea was, okay, well, let's make a business that supports you doing that. Because obviously I'm going to be fatigued, I'm going to be tired, and so is he, but we're not going to be able to work millions of hours with clients. So let's build something that is a little bit more systematic, that where we can still focus on our own selves, but still build up this brand, which I think that's kind of where it stemmed from as well.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, look,
that was great.
Cool. This is going to fall.
That's all right. All right. Good chat, as always. Oh, there's my water bottle. Chat, brother.
That was good.
It was.